Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Only Pools Podcast. My name is TK.
I'm Erik.
What do you do, Erik?
I help train our commercial techs to make sure they're ready for the field when they get out there. I am currently training under our commercial manager and repair manager, so I can help the team move smoothly. And I'm a pool technician at the very beginning. Commercial.
Yeah.
You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with OPP? Every last homie. You ever go swimming? Man, it's so much fun. Now we got a podcast joining everyone. Talking about pools, the stories we share. From backyard splashing to Olympic fair. We got chlorine, pH, and filter tips. Keep your pool fresh, avoiding no slips. With hosts so cool and guests so neat. We're dropping pool knowledge that it can't be beat. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. Who's down with OPP? Every last homie. Only Pools Podcast. Let's go.
So again, we have a guest today. We have Erik. He is a pool technician, more or less on the commercial side. And since my normal co-host is out, we're going to bring you in and we're going to learn more about the people that we have here in the office. Last episode, we did our admin. You've met Will before.
Yeah, Will's a great guy. Teamwork makes the dream works.
Giggly. There was probably, I've probably
You
filmed
couldn't even take the picture.
maybe 10 minutes of him just laughing. And I've now stored up enough funny stuff where I think maybe around Christmas time, I'll do like a little, kind of
Clip
like
show.
yeah, but not like a blooper reel, but pretty much like just funny
Yeah,
things.
just a little clip show.
Yeah, well, let's see where we're going. From what I know, not a Florida native.
Not a Florida native. Been in Florida for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
Doing pools for Brian the Boss Man for 3 of them.
3 years.
This is my first pool job. He's actually helped me get in the industry and helped me learn everything I know.
Also not a Florida native, but Will also not a Florida native.
There's a lot of not Floridians in Florida.
And we've all, well, I guess you and I moved here around the same time to Florida, and then Will just got here earlier this year.
Okay.
But Virginia?
West Virginia. So I'm, here for 7 years, and I came from West Virginia. I spent most of my formative years in West Virginia, like middle school and high school. But before West Virginia, I was born and raised in California.
Yeah.
Expensive. So we left at like 12 and just kind of traveled. I've been to a lot of states.
Now, I know your hobbies because we probably talk more than any other coworker out here.
Yeah, sure.
But out in West Virginia or California, have you always been into glass blowing?
Yes.
From out there?
Yeah. So I met a couple people that my brother knew. I have an older brother, 8 years older, so I get to meet older individuals. So before we left California, I met a couple of his friends who were in the art form. That kind of stuck with me when I went to West Virginia, and then was always just really into the glass medium and just the art.
You have made me a pendant and some marbles. It's funny because whenever I take somebody else's truck, there'll be like marbles in the door or in the little thing. I was like, oh, I bet Erik made this.
Everyone's got something from me.
So what made you, I guess, get the job here? Or?
So before I did pools, right, I've only been doing it 3 years. Before I did pools, my passion and main hobby outside of glass blowing is cooking.
Oh.
So at first I started as a line chef, and then when I moved to Florida, I helped a couple individuals open up their own restaurant. One was Italian, one was kind of like a Tex-Mex fusion kind of thing, and then the third one that I went to was another Italian and pizza shop. There's not really enough money in food because you need money to buy food, and they don't pay enough. So I wanted to get into construction. Yeah. I wanted to get outside, get out of the kitchen. It was in a time of my life where I had recently lost 150 pounds.
No!
I was a big boy.
150 pounds.
150 pounds in about a year. So when I was thin, slimming down, I was like, I think I can do this construction stuff. And the corporation was too big. They just didn't care.
No.
Decided for a little change up, stumbled upon Brian's ad, and the interview was just like, this guy cares. He wants to impart knowledge into his employees, so we all make each other look good.
Mm-hmm.
And I love gaining knowledge. So I was like, I'm down, sir. And it's been smooth pulling ever since.
I forgot that you used to be a big boy, because you're definitely not a big. Well, you're tall, but
Yeah, tall, but yeah, I've maintained the weight for a good 2 years. Yeah.
humble clap. Did you move through the ranks pretty fast? Because 3 years is a long time in a company. Pretty long for,
This
I would
company,
say,
I
this
think, is
industry
only
as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, I think I did move through the ranks pretty quick. In my opinion, the company was much smaller at that time. We didn't have nearly as many trucks, nearly as many technicians.
Almost 40 now.
So yeah, so there was a time where I trained with Brian. I actually got trained by the boss, so I actually knew pinpoint details that he wanted to do. So once I got out on my own, I got trained by Brian, so I was more efficient than perhaps somebody else trained by not the owner.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to prod and try and pick up slack and just kind of see what I could do to help. And then when you put yourself at the forefront of everyone's brain, when there's help to be needed, you usually go, hey, do you want to help? Hey, do you want to help? And there was a time where they needed a commercial tech kind of last minute. So even though I was only a few months into the industry,
Mm-hmm.
I was taught by a very knowledgeable individual. So they said, hey, do you want to help?
Yes.
And I said, yeah. And I just, each ladder rung, I just want to improve and help everyone else improve.
Because now you're like, whenever I train somebody, and if it's with commercial, it'll be like, call Erik first, then call Dan, then call Brian.
Yeah, that's usually about right. And when I get done training someone, I always like, hey, I can usually answer all your questions. There are going to be a couple things where you have to go to Dan because that's just the rules of the commercial side of things. Right. But for the most part, just 3 years, and I get phone calls, which is cool.
I forget where I was, but I was out on a trip, and somebody reached out to me and was like, how do I do this? And I was like, no. Erik is that guy. I am not that guy. That's Erik's job. But on the retrospect of that, or I guess on the other side of that, you were sick one day, like a month or so ago.
Yeah, out for a week.
And damn you for everyone texting me that day. And I was like,
hey, hello?
Erik has to deal with all of this all day long. It was like 8 texts, like 3 phone calls.
And it was a video chat. It's all manageable, but
it was like a normal, just run-of-the-mill Wednesday.
Yeah, it happens like that. And some of our commercial texts, we make sure they get sent out there with all the proper knowledge, but it takes a little while to dial down your speed and make sure you're not working super late. So there'll be a couple days where I'll be at home for 30 minutes and I'll get a phone call from a tech and they'll be like, oh, they're in a bad spot, and I'll answer it because I don't want anyone to be sinking.
Right.
So it just is what it is.
I was answering phone calls in Oklahoma.
Guys, I just got off the wave.
I was like, dude, I'm surfing right now. I got to answer these phone calls. But I think that's what I liked about the company too. Not that we're trying to schmooze the company or anything like that, but Will was like, this great company that we work for, and I was like, you don't have to butter us up that much,
right?
But with knowing Brian, knowing Dan, knowing all you and Vince, kind of like all the senior people that have been here, it really has been pretty awesome to have somebody always reachable to take care of you. And that's what I liked when I first started here. It was like, I could reach out to you, I could reach out to Dan, and if it wasn't right away on the first phone call, it would be like a minute or two later and be like, hey, I just got off another phone call. What's up?
There's a lot of phone juggling.
That's something I appreciate about you and Dan when I started commercial, because coming from water parks and then working down to residential back into commercial, way different than water parks.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, your water park experience is definitely grandeur for sure.
Yeah. I was just like, help.
Help me learn. And that's all we're trying to do. And it's not always just like, oh, yay, the company, but there is something to say for the amount of technicians who have put in longevity with us and like teamwork. Been with this company for 3 years and like, yay, company. But I don't think prior to this, I felt appreciated enough to stay in a job longer than a year.
Mm.
When I broke my 2 years here, I was like, oh, wow, pat on the back, I did it. But it's also like the environment did it. You know what I mean?
And now recently,
Yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, but that I'm saying, like, just after my previous jobs, like, didn't really work. But once I got that first 2 year, I was like, oh, it's obviously the environment that you're in.
Yes. Have you liked moving into the pool industry? And do you think you're going to, I would say not stay with it, but do you think you would find like a career path?
Yeah, I think there's enough lanes in the pool industry, repair, servicing, even just sales on certain things. There's enough lanes for you to gain revenue that once you have the knowledge, you can kind of
There.
do a lot. Yeah, so I think I'm going to be staying in the industry for a while, and especially working with water for a while, because you don't just do pools. You learn some electrical side of things, some plumbing and mechanical side of things. So,
Well, maybe not after today with your hot tub story.
well, that's okay. Sometimes you just have to sit in a couple 100-degree water for a few minutes and
Few minutes is like hours.
turn yourself into soup. But the job got completed, and that's okay. You struggle, you take a break, you struggle, and then you win.
Has there been like a crazy story or something just outrageous that has happened since not being from the pool industry, coming into the pool industry, and was like, that's the thing that can happen?
Well, I guess when you're not familiar with the
Mhm.
industry, and that's a common word in this one, when you're not
That'd be
familiar
the
with
title.
pools, you really don't know how dirty the back end side of things could be, and you don't really understand how important it is for whatever pool serviceman's doing it or person on property to take care of that water and to make sure that it's healthy. When I got here, I was just like, oh yeah, make sure the pools are clean, make sure things are
Don't
good.
chlorine.
Right. Throw a jug, throw some acid, through the pucks. But when, coming into water and water safety from not that, you really can see how poorly things can go and how quickly they can go poorly.
Yes.
And you really get a new view on bodies of water. 3 years ago, I would have jumped in almost any pool if it was good and
Mhm.
clean and all this. And you see a nice blue swimming pool, and you're probably not going to get in because of the equipment side of things gets kind of icky.
There was, coming from water parks, we had to have our CPO right away before we could touch anything. And not that I was ever like a big water park guy, but maybe the 3 months from when I started to when I completed my CPO, I was like, I'm never getting in another hot tub ever again.
I'm good. It was,
No.
it's a no.
Mm-mm.
The body fats and oils that come off of people and get to stay in this water is eye-opening, to say the least.
Okay, well, I think maybe I'll start asking everyone, but what's the creepiest thing you found in a pool?
Creepy, I guess, is subjective, right?
Maybe.
The creepiest, all right, it's a part 1 and a part B.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, number 1, it's pretty creepy, I guess, when you go to wash a hot tub filter, seemingly fairly clean filter, you get your cleaning done, and a pile of brown bubbles usually gets to form wherever the lowest point of your hill is, wherever the water collects.
I don't like where this is
You're
going.
going to get some good foam. And I guess my part B is just the amount of dead animals and critters that you can find in skimmer baskets. I've got a fish in one, nowhere near a body of water. Just mainland kind of, I guess Florida's all around water, but a fish in some baskets. I've got one squirrel and a snake, both deceased.
Snakes common.
And snakes are common. And just about 4 weeks ago on a commercial property, there was a very bloated possum.
Whoa.
So
MX8s, the vacuum cleaners.
oh yeah,
I got a customer complaint. My vacuum's not running, blah, blah, blah. Go out there. They're over my shoulder. So I pull it out. I have needle nose pliers like tucked in the little tool thing, and by a tail, I just pull a rat, like a Cuban size rat, like that big out of there. And I was like, there you go. That's why your vacuum's not working. They're like, what are you going to do with that? And I was like, what are you going to do with it? This is your property.
Throw it away, yeah. I
They were
fixed
all
your
good about
vacuum.
it.
Yeah.
I got rid of it the right way. But he was like, can you just fling it over the fence, the customer? And I was like,
You got a neighbor?
in your neighbor's yard?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know my neighbor. And I'm like, no, I have a disposal in my. Other than that, has there been something that you've appreciated that you've learned since being in the pool industry?
Mostly just my all-encompassing knowledge. I know that sounds kind of boring and a blanketed statement, but I've always kind of been a tinkerer at heart. Doing art, you put stuff together. As a kid, I would take things apart and mostly put them back together. But I really just appreciate how much knowledge there is to gain and how much knowledge I've gotten. And like sometimes you don't really have an opportunity to learn till you do it.
Right.
So I know there's a lot of those experiences out there still waiting for me to do and learn. I was in the hot tub today because I had never done that light wedge. And so now, my boss, Dan.
2 hours later,
hey,
finish the light wedge.
I got it. And it's in there. So, each new experience, just happy for the next one, I guess.
And the knowledge that you come with there, I guess that you gain with this is it goes from chemistry, like we said, electrical, plumbing,
right,
whatever. It is crazy being a pool boy. Yeah, I guess if you're just cleaning pools,
sure,
that still encompasses a lot.
There's still a lot. Yeah, you can't just talk to a layman and try and talk to another pool industry like fellow. It's very chemistry and scientific at times.
And more than just not wear shirts and clean pools.
I oftentimes get called a scientist by my family. So it's.
I kind of just wanted to bring people in, kind of introduce the viewership to other people we have. Yeah. We will definitely revisit everyone we have on here.
See the team.
When we get more. Typically, we'll end the show with a tip. Do you have a pool tip? Will said don't pee in pools.
You got to bathe before you get in that pool.
Mm-hmm.
You should shower. It doesn't always have to be soap, but a good rinse will really save your health of your water and a lot of your filter equipment. Because a lot of people just lather on that sunscreen and hop right in and sweat it all off. And
those cartridges just...
Yep, swell up and get floppy. So shower first.
Well, thanks for coming out. We'll have you back on. And
thank you, TK.
Brian always says, just keep swimming. So just keep
swimming. He's been saying that for a couple of years now.
You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. You down with OPP? Yeah, you know me. Who's down with OPP? Every last homie. You ever go swimming? Man, it's so much fun. Now we got a podcast joining everyone. Talking about pools, the stories we share. From backyard splashing to Olympic fair. We got chlorine, pH, and filter tips. Keep your pool fresh, avoiding no slips. With hosts so cool and guests so neat. We're dropping pool knowledge that it can't be beat. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. Who's down with OPP? Every last homie. Dive into discussions, no topics too small. From kiddie pools to water parks, we cover it all. We got pool parties and cannonballs too. If it's about water, we talking to you. Interviews with experts and stories to share. From poolside barbecues to water care. We got tips and tricks to keep your pool right. Listen in the morning or at the late night. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. Who's down with OPP? Every last homie. O is for only, the best place to be. P is for pools, come dive in with me. P is for podcast, we talking weekly. Only Pools Podcast, the one and only. Grab your goggles and your floaties too. Tune in to our show, we got stuff for you. Poolside chats to aquatic news. Only Pools Podcast, you can't refuse. We teach you how to clean, how to keep it clear. The best pool stories that you'll ever hear. From summer fun to maintenance prep. Only Pools Podcast, we're your best bet. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down with OPP? Only Pools Podcast. You down